Good evening, everyone. I'm going to continue my little metaphysical series. Last time we spoke about the fourfold layers of the human psyche. Today we are going to look at what is happening to a baby, how the baby's personality is building up during his first 2-3 years. The incarnating soul is always there at when the fetus is created. And it is eagerly waiting for delivery. And once the baby is taking its first breath, that is when the soul and the physical body merge. That's the moment of birth, physical birth. And from then on, the way a baby is trying to show what it wants, to draw attention upon himself is usually by crying. Think about it. The human soul is a multi-dimensional being. It is a light being. It is a light shaft. And it decides to come down to the earth plane simply because it wants to experience. And also because this is a very, very very nice dimension. It is full of experiences, full of joys, full of important things to learn and things to enjoy. So we crave for this dimension up there, and we don't remember how bad it is sometimes and how painful and how difficult human existence is. We don't care for that. It's the same thing with everything. I mean, think about it. When you go back to your childhood, yes, admittedly, you might have had some terrible experiences. But if you had just a regular childhood, you look back and you long for your grandmother's pastry, or I don't know, for your grandfather's tales, something like that. You don't remember when your grandmother pushed you around or punished you for something. That's not staying in the psyche if it wasn't very difficult, of course. If it's the norm, it's a normal experience. You always remember the good times, and you try to push back the bad times, at least if you are a normal human person. If you are an idiot and you want to suffer, of course, then you are going to foment your hurts and you're going to cry over spilled milk. I suggest you don't do that, and you concentrate on the good stuff, because you are going to be a much better and healthier and happier person. Anyhow, so the baby is born, and this multidimensional light being is pushed into this tiny, tiny, totally helpless physical body, which is the baby, which is the infant. And I always say that compared to the animal world, the human baby is a premature little thing, because if you look at any of the animals, they start functioning in 10 minutes after birth or after coming out of the egg. Not the human baby. The human baby needs about 2 years of constant learning and constant care in order to survive and in order to become, at least from infant to a little child. Those first 2 years are crucial. The best thing you can do is to spend a lot of time with your child and paying attention to its every aspect, whatever it needs, because those years never come back. And if you do your work properly, and if you actually pay attention to the little signs and signals that I'm going to help you now to decipher, you're going to create a much healthier and happier little person. And that is the task of parents, I believe. So the baby's soul is just like your own soul and anyone's soul. It's a multidimensional cosmic being, and it's squashed into a tiny, helpless physical body. So what is going to manifest first? You would think that the ascendant, since this is the physical body, but no, it's the soul, it's the spiritual essence that is going to manifest very first. The way the babies cry, the way they look at you, the way they act as a personality is always according to their moon signs. I usually it takes me about 10 minutes to watch a baby, and I can always say what the element of the moon sign is, because they just behave like this. So let's take a look at the elements themselves. I'm not going to take all the signs, the astrological signs, because there might be slight differences. If there indeed are some very marked differences, I'm going to let you know in the meanwhile. But let's look at the elements, because they really react to the outside world according to the element of their moon sign. Let's start with fire. It always starts with fire. So fire sign, moon sign babies, which is Aries, Leo, and Sagittarius. They cry. They are full of energy. They are simply demanding attention. You hear their voices many times. It's usually crying, loud and sometimes very impatient and aggressive crying, with big voice, with big gestures. The baby's agitated, shaking its limbs, because they want attention, because they simply want you to pay attention at all times. So if you have a fire moon sign baby, you need to spend a lot of time and a lot of attention. It must be turned towards your baby. At the same time, air is very, very thoughtful. They're usually quiet babies. They really cry only when they have something big to complain about, or something, is wrong. But usually they spend a lot of time looking around. They look into your eyes already after a couple of days after birth. Like, it's incredible. They have this very deep intelligence. They look at you and you think that they understand you. They look right into and even through you. You have to talk to them a lot. And it's best if you put things above the crib, which are moving, okay, and colorful puppets, and dolls and whatever, and rags. You can put them on the side of the crib, because they need to get information and input. Input is important. Later on, you can use stories. You can let them listen to music. These are very attentive babies, very alert, and very intelligent looking. They're not necessarily less intelligent, more intelligent than fire sign, moon sign babies, but still they appear to be more intelligent and more attentive. Water needs to be cuddled. Water is the sign of emotions. And I forgot to tell you the air signs, but I'm sure you know. Air is Gemini, Libra, and Aquarius. And we're talking about now the water signs. And water signs are Cancer, Scorpio, and Pisces. And these little babies need to be loved. They need to be cuddled, loved. You have to pay attention to them emotionally. Okay, they cry a lot, unfortunately. They can be very, very emotional when something is amiss, or when the parents don't understand them. I'm not saying that they cry the most, because it depends how you actually behave to your baby and how you cater for its needs. If you completely neglected all babies, even air moon sign babies will cry a lot. But if you pay attention to emotional needs, and you cuddle them a lot, you give them kisses, you hold them a lot, it's best to keep them on your heart, really, so that they can feel your heartbeat. They can calm down as well. They are a little bit more fussy than air moon sign babies. And finally, Earth moon sign babies, which are Taurus, Virgo, and Capricorn. They need to be fed. They need to be fed at their own pace and time. Don't go after the book, please. Don't try to feed them every 3 hours, the newborn. It's nonsense. It's cool. Okay. Just pay attention to them. Sometimes you feed them and half an hour later, they want to be fed again. And then you need to feed them again. So they have their own pace. At the same time, they need some order and structure in their lives, especially Capricorn moon sign, which is a difficult moon sign for babies, especially for boys. For girls, it's not that difficult. It's still not a very easy moon sign. So they need structure in their life. They need attention and food, good quality, proper food, and then they can calm down. So these are the moon signs. And this is what kicks in at day one. Okay, on day one, you will actually see how the baby is crying, how its eyes are opening up, how it's looking around, and you can actually tell already just by then. And for quite a while, this is the only thing that really manifests very clearly. Of course, all 4 energy patterns, all 4 layers of the personality are already there. They just don't manifest, or don't manifest properly, or they don't manifest in a way that you actually realize. You can realize. If you are an astrologer, it's of course easier, because then you see the signs working, because you have seen them working so many times, and you can decipher it. So for around a couple of months, maybe 3 to 6 months, it's really the moon sign that is very prominent. And then as the baby starts to move around, starts to use its limbs, turns around, starts to crawl even. It is around half a year, when they are half a year old. That is when they start using their ascendant, their rising sign. The rising sign is the physical body. So the way they move around or try to move around, how strong they are, what muscles they use. Sometimes you can see babies that are very, very muscular. Sometimes they are very chubby. And it already shows, you can distinguish by, how the baby's flesh is really looking, and how firm it is, and how the muscles are working. And then the next one to kick in is the sun sign. At about 2.5 years of age, the baby suddenly starts talking about him or herself in the first person singular. Up till then, between the first and second years, they usually talk about themselves in the third person singular. They call them their names, and they refer to themselves as some sort of other person. And all of a sudden they realize that it's me. So that is when the sun sign kicks in. And that is a very, very distinct moment, because all of a sudden, yes, you can see how the sun sign is blooming, and how the sun sign is making itself prominent. And then the south node can manifest at any moment in time, really, because remember, the south node is our karmic experiences, not the sum total as such, because you know a lot more than your south node, obviously. It is your survival kit for this life, for this incarnation. You choose to pack things into your suitcase when you go for a vacation. And this is exactly like that. You come to the earth, you have a plan, the birth chart, and for that you need certain traits, abilities, skills. And this is what you pack together and bring them in for the incarnation, the new incarnation. And that is represented by the south node. So the south node is usually an energy pattern that you use very, very instinctually. And as such, it can be utilized at any moment in time, really from the first moment of birth till your last, when you die. You use it as a mechanic to get back at someone, or to keep yourself in a safe place, or actually to fight with someone. So those are your weapons and the traits that you can utilize whenever you feel cornered or threatened. And it depends when this moment comes. in a baby's life. But when it comes, the baby will suddenly use this. So that could be a very interesting moment, actually, if you pay attention. And if you are an astrologer, it's not such a big deal to pay attention, because you might have a very mild energy pattern in the child. For instance, you might have a Libra moon, which makes it very, very attentive and intelligent looking. You might have a Gemini ascendant, which is a flexible, movable child, not very calm, but quite alert and someone who likes to move around in both in the intellectual and in the physical way. And you might have let's say a Pisces sun, which means the baby is very nice and smiley and a little bit moody, but a kind, and this is a kind, nice energy pattern, even despite the fact that the Gemini ascendant could clash with the Pisces sun. And then if this baby has an Aries south node, and this baby is cornered, then it's going to fight. It's going to take out its weapon, and all of a sudden it will have a sword or a pistol in its hands, and you will experience that there's some very deep survival energy in it, which it's going to use even against you or against whoever is there. So those are made up in a psyche, and they are all important, especially when you want to know your child. Besides, of course, the astrological pattern, we all have a numerological pattern as well, the numeroscope. And we also have something that is called chronobiological psychogenetics, which is a fascinating typology. I'm sure you probably haven't heard about it yet. It is something that the Soviets invented in the 80s because they needed to know how to select people for certain tasks. And it's quite interesting. And those three, the astrological patterns, the numerological patterns, and the chronobiological patterns are mixed up in the personality, and all are quite important, even though astrology is probably the most detailed and the most complicated of the three. I will come later on with more. Probably we will continue our metaphysics, and we are going to think about how and what manifests as free will. So the next topic in metaphysics will be the nature and the workings of fate and free will. Until then, goodbye.